I'm going to be talking about generalized anxiety disorder, otherwise known as GAD or free-floating anxiety. I'll start by defining some terms. Generalized anxiety disorder is an anxiety disorder characterized by excessive and persistent feelings of worry about a broad range of subjects, including financial matters and personal relationships. Anxiety is the central nervous system's physiological and emotional response to a vague sense of danger, as opposed to fear, which is the CNS response to an imminent threat. The DSM-5 has some diagnostic criteria for GAD, which starts with excessive anxiety and worry more days than not for at least 6 months about a broad range of issues. They stress that it's difficult for the person to control and that it's associated with 3 or more of a long list of symptoms, including restlessness and irritability. The diagnostic criteria continues with a distinction that it creates significant distress or dysfunction in the person who's suffering. And so that's 2 of the 4 Ds that we studied about in the beginning of our class. And it's also not attributable to the physiological effects of a substance or medication, or that are explained by another disorder. Another thing to note is that individuals with anxiety disorders tend to have trouble estimating the danger of the issues that they're faced with. So the diagnosis depends a lot on the clinician they're dealing with. And this is controversial because this is a subjective matter and it's hard for them to be accurate. Also, the cognitive aspects are accompanied by somatic symptoms such as physical things like sleep, irritability, and muscle tension. The diagnostic features focus on major symptoms like the anxiety is out of proportion and it's difficult to keep it from interfering with daily life. So these are distinguished from normal worrying because of their physical features, like their somatic symptoms, and then also the intensity and duration. These worries are out of proportion to the causes. The prevalence rates are, in the U.S., 4% of the population will have symptoms of GAD in a given year. This is 6% over the course of a lifetime. Women are twice as likely as men to be diagnosed with GAD, and prevalence rates are higher in low-income areas and areas that have threatening environments, whether that's due to violence or environmental threats. So the economic impact of GAD accounts for 110 million disability days per year in the United States, so that's a significant impact. The various perspectives on GAD are sociocultural, which attributes most of the causes of GAD to racial pressures and socioeconomic stress. Psychodynamic, which blames excessive anxiety on the breakdown of defense mechanisms. In humanistic theory, Carl Rogers attributes a lack of unconditional love to a high rate of self-criticism. And the cognitive theory is based on Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck's work, which focuses on rational emotive therapy and the maladaptive beliefs that are held by the patient. And then finally, biological theory, which attributes GAD to a low level of the neurotransmitter GABA. Also, they talk about the genetic component in which biological relatives are 9% more likely to have GAD than the general population. The differential diagnosis helps us rule out other disorders that have similar symptoms to GAD, which are anxiety disorders due to another medical condition, another substance abuse and being on a medication, social anxiety disorder, OCD, PTSD, or depressive, bipolar, or psychotic disorders. The most common disorders to co-occur with GAD are unipolar depressive disorder and other anxiety disorders because they share a lot of the same symptoms like neuroticism, and they also have common risk factors. The leading treatments usually fall under the school of thought of biological and cognitive therapies. The biological treatments are anti-anxiety drug therapy and relaxation training, which includes biofeedback. And cognitive therapies include rational emotive therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. So just to close, a couple of people that are notable figures who have been diagnosed with GAD are Barbara Streisand and Brian Wilson. And this just goes to show that it's all around us and that it's highly treatable. So thank you. I hope you learned something.